Cool. All right, so we're going to call to order for this meeting. So first of all, of course, the Dalhousie Student Union acknowledges that Dalhousie University and the Dalhousie Student Union building are located on traditional, unceded, and unsurrendered Mi'kmaq territory. The Dalhousie Student Union seeks to honor the relational treaty process in its programming, events, and meetings. So we'll start off just with a roll call. So Kathleen, Rhiannon.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, just for the purpose of the minutes more so than the editing.
Present.
It's all good. Dylan. Good. Amina. Kelsey.
Yep.
Anthony. Okay, I have regrets from Katie. Cassie, you can hear us okay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. Regrets from Alex. Emma. Yeah, perfect. I have regrets from Edith as well as Daniel, and as well as Michael. So then Mackenzie.
Yes.
Yep. Mary.
Here.
Shauna, you can still hear us okay?
Yeah.
And Aaron, I don't think I saw. And Bart, you can still hear?
Yeah.
Good stuff. And Katie got this.
Oh, gosh.
Let's see. Okay. So on to the agenda. Do we have a motion just to accept the agenda as it was circulated? Okay, Dylan, and seconded. Mary, thanks. And before we adopt the agenda, are there any amendments to that agenda?
What?
Oh, no, actually,
No, we're not amending that.
we're not having max appointments.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I would like to add an appointment to update the bylaw and policy committee. I have a non-counselor who is interested in joining.
Okay, so just adding to our standing committee section in our appointments in number 5 for today, you want to add the motion or the discussion of having Max appointed to the policy review committee?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion to add that to the agenda? Dylan, thanks. And any opposition to discussing Max in the policy review committee when we do our appointments? Okay, seeing no opposition, that passes on unanimous consent. So that's added to the agenda. Any other amendments to the agenda before we adopt it as it is? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda with just that one amendment? Okay, Kathleen, and seconded. Kelsey, thanks. Any opposition to adopting the agenda as it was circulated with the one amendment for Max? Okay, seeing no opposition, that passes on unanimous consent, so we've adopted the agenda for today. So the minutes of the previous meeting, do we have a motion to accept them as they are? Is there any discussion on those? Okay, motion from Kathleen to accept the minutes from the last meeting, and seconded. Dylan, thanks. Okay, on to communications received. I've received regrets from Ivit, the dentistry rep, Daniel from engineering, Katie from BOG, Michael from law, Alex from arts and social sciences. And just as another note, Ali has resigned as DAGS, so we've been in contact with DAGS. That position will be filled presumably within early September, so no stress there, but that's something else that's come through since the last meeting. Okay, on to appointments. We can start with Max, that's easy for me. So for the standing committees, of course, these are committees that are mandated to have to be populated and sort of stay filled. Still there, Sean?
I'm still here.
Okay, so you just check. Just scared
Okay.
So this was your addition, so you
Yeah.
wanna-
So currently with the bylaw and policy review committee, we have 2 members who are council members. When we initially did the appointment, we had no non-council members who were interested in joining. Since then, we've done some recruitment and we found someone who would like to join. So we only need that one more spot filled. We have been acting because we have quorum with 3 members, which is myself and Bart and Katie. But it would be nice to have a 4th person for more student input. So just so everyone knows, the Bylaw and Policy Review Committee reviews bylaws and policies. Yeah, we just make sure, especially with the recent bylaw review and overtake, that the new policies are intact with that, and we amend them and then bring them to council, mostly for people to approve, which we're doing today as well. So.
Perfect, thanks. Seeing as there's no one else other than Max who's seeking that position today, do we have a motion for Max? Yeah, Max, what's your last name?
Vermeer.
Vermeer, V-E-R.
V-E-R-M-E-I-R.
So is there a motion to accept Max's nomination as the Policy Review Committee? Okay, Mary, and second? Brianna? Perfect. Any opposition to Max being appointed to the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee? Okay, seeing none, congratulations.
Woo!
Passing this consent, you're now part of Bylaw and Policy.
Well done.
Thank you.
So just as a note, there are a couple other standing committees that have positions that need to be filled. The Executive Review Committee still needs 1 council member position filled. The External Committee is an open committee. It does have the minimum numbers required, but anyone else is free to seek an appointment to that committee if they're interested. And the Student Life Committee is still seeking two members, council members, to sit on that committee. Now, I've gone through and checked which councilors are currently not sitting on any committees, because it is required that you sit on at least one. Everybody here is sitting on at least one. I hate to call you out, except for you, Shauna, unless I am mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not currently sitting on any of the standing committees, Shauna?
Yeah, but I am, we have that arrangement with, I'm sorry, I don't remember who, but
Emma.
Right.
She's doing it for summer, I'm filling in with her, or filling in for her once school starts, and I asked, and you guys said I don't need to do one for the summer.
Perfect. So you're taking over in September.
We're good? Okay.
We are good. So unfortunately, Kelsey, and then my committee as well, so we're going to wait. Come the 1st September meeting when we have additional council members present. Hopefully we'll get other committees, but otherwise, that is all good. Okay, no other business on standing committees, and I didn't receive anything for presentations for this meeting, so reports from the board caucus and from the Senate caucus. We'll start with the board.
The board doesn't meet in the summer, so we are on hiatus right now, but this will be an announcement, but the election of an interim BOG member who is a student, because Anthony is leaving the Board of Governors, he's leaving his post, and so we need to elect a student to work in the remainder of his term, which ends May 2017. So that election will occur at the next council meeting, which will be September 14th. So if folks, I'll send out an official announcement, but if folks would like to go for that and they already sit on council, they can, they just have to leave their seat. So if you were really interested in it, you would have to give up your seat as a councilor because you can't hold 2 positions on council, but more so also if you could push that out to your constituencies and just say that it's a great opportunity for someone, it's exciting, they just have to run an election at council rather than like the long process during DSU election times. So yeah, that's all I'll say about the board.
Okay, and any questions about that board staff?
You'll send out an email.
Yeah, I'll send out like an email that you can like copy and paste
Yeah,
here.
perfect.
Perfect. On to Senate staff.
No updates for Senate. We're also on hiatus until September.
Okay, now, unless there are any questions about that update, we can move on as well. Thanks, Amita.
Great update.
So on to old business. So as discussed at the last council meeting, we're going to go through some of the policies that the Policy and Bylaw Review Committee have been putting together. Again, as a reminder, these policies are meant to sort of bring up to speed the policies that were in place with the old bylaws to make sure that the new bylaws that were passed last year are all in sync with the policies that are meant to sort of bring them into effect. So I know there was a motion that was asked for to just table the voter identification policy just until we have more people around to have that discussion. Who was it who wanted to motion that? This has been brought up by a few of us. Bart? Okay, Bart forwards that motion to table the voter identification policy. Do we have a second for that motion, Rhiannon? Bart, can you just speak for a minute on why you think it's good to table that for now?
Current policy involves a lot of very intense questions, especially for queer students, about self-identification, who has access to our information, and what that means. By pushing it forward to the next meeting, or potentially the one after that, we'll be able to actually talk to students who are affected by the voter identification policy and get much better feedback than is possible over the summer.
Also just add that it's not urgent that we have it done by this meeting anyways, so we'd rather be thorough and make sure that everyone's comfortable with it than rush it.
Very good point.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for or against tabling the discussion on the voter identification policy? Okay, is anyone opposed to tabling the voter identification policy for this meeting? Seeing none, I'll take that motion as passing on unanimous consent, so that's tabled for now. The first one up should be council policy.
Great. So in that package everyone got, you should have the policies that they're the same as the ones that have the track changes on them. We just took the track changes off so y'all could read them better. And the only things to note about these ones is that anything in yellow on the screen is slightly highlighted on your page. So if you look at cancel G, you can see G is kind of highlighted. This goes to black and white, but those are the things that are new in the policies. So those are the things that we put in, and the other things are just edited, but they're roughly the same. So if you're interested in seeing the edited things, like via track changes, that was circulated at last month's council meeting, or was that 2 months ago? Yeah. But so yeah, we can just work through them together right now.
So just Cassie, Bart, and Sean,
Yeah.
you'll have to pull up the live stream to tag along.
Yeah, so is that,
Just for the record, it's a live stream, so we are actually, I think, 30 seconds delayed, somebody said.
quite.
Okay.
Is there any chance that this could get emailed to us really quick?
Yeah. Yeah, do you have, well, the only two that are different are the ones that I emailed you today.
Sure. Yeah, Bart, I can send that to you right now.
Or just circulate them to all councilors.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that'd be a problem like 30 seconds ago. I apologize.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, go ahead, Shauna.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you guys could hear me. I thought that the live stream is actually currently loading, but I can see the screen. I just can't see what's written on the screen when I do that. So, technically, I don't see it, but,
Hey, Will, can you switch the things, not show us, but to show the screen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Email it to you.
okay, I think it's not a huge deal, but, no problem. Thanks.
2 seconds and I'll send that out.
We'll be.
Yeah, Bart, I know I didn't attach them. I'm resending to you.
It does, no, it says it in like the brackets that make you think they were loaded, and I tried to click it, it just highlighted it.
Yeah, I hit reply instead of forward to Kathleen's email, so we'll do that again. There we go. So now those will have been sent out. So we'll do our best to make sure to keep tabs on the folks who are on the phone. But what I'll suggest for those who can't see the live stream or the screen, if you're just following with the attachment that was sent out via phone, sort of make notes for anything that doesn't get discussed or resolved. And then before we do any kind of voting, I'll make sure to do a last call to anybody on the phone if there were additional points they wanted to raise. Cool?
It's gonna be weird being the quiet one, but I'm in.
I appreciate it, Bart.
Okay, so I think the way that we should probably do this is just go through the new things and make sure folks are cool with those, and then we can go through the things that were only edited, or if people brought forth issues that they have when reviewing them. Does that work for counselors? Awesome. Okay, so council, the first point of that is the chair. We're writing the chair of counselor. Of council, and if the only new part there is that they sign the statement of office and be privy to in-camera discussions. I think that was probably like an oversight on the last policy, because I think that's pretty important. Does anybody have any issue with that? Cool. I'm just gonna assume that silence means coolness. Okay. The next thing is council reports. The committee thought that the reports used to be a thing, and they weren't really well followed. We would only receive a couple reports a year from counselors, and they just weren't very thorough, and there wasn't a lot of I don't know, ask for them, I guess. So now in here we have counselors shall submit a written report to council 3 times per year, one before September 15th on their activities over the summer, one before December 15th on their activities during the fall term, and one before April 30th on their activities during the winter term. And this isn't meant to like give counselors more work to do at all. It just is kind of to show for the records that they have been attending and are contacting their constituency in a correct way. These reports, there's nothing here that's mandating that it has to be like a book. It could be a quick page, just bullet point what you've done to just kind of report to council and make sure that everyone's held accountable. Is everyone okay with this structure? Do they have other comments about what should be added? We're totally open. This is just something the bylaw and policy review committee kind of presented.
This is the point where I would talk here. I think at last meeting, some people were confused as to what a written report to council would ask me, as in like, or submitted to, and like, how does it remember? So I don't know if anybody here had those ideas last time, and then I figured I'd bring it up as part of the language thing, potential confusion one.
Yeah, so you broke up a little bit there, Bart, but I do remember that as well. So yeah, there was confusion as to whether presenting a report to council meant orally presenting the report, because that would be a pretty involved time commitment to have that happen on a regular basis or through the full council meeting. So just, yeah, speaking to clarify the language on what submit actually constitutes.
Cool. So yeah, I think that it wouldn't be a presentation, it would be just a written submission via the interweb.
All right, so we just, everybody emails it to the chair, and then he distributes it all in one big old zip file?
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect. Love it.
Should we just make a note of that here, or
It might be best to just write it as submit a written report to chair, who will compile and email to council.
Sure.
Sure, okay, that works.
Circulated to council.
Okay. Cool. Any other thoughts about this? Does anybody think we should have like a word limit? Like, I don't, just because I think, what if it's like one line? Like, should there be any mandate? Bart, you have something to say?
I mean, if it's one line, it's one line, and then everybody who is represented by that councilor knows that the council only wrote one line.
That's true.
And if they're upset about it, they're upset about it. If they're not, they're not.
Cool. Okay, cool. Alrighty, everyone okay with that? Sweet.
Where will they go?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, that was.
Okay, yeah. They would be circulated to council, like the counselors, so they could read them, and then I think that they could like go into documents to like keep for in case something happens. happens, but also we could put them on the website too. That could be cool.
I think they should be posted to the website.
Okay.
And they just put that in to
Yeah.
circulate to council, and then after approval, post to the website. We have to approve them? I don't know. Just,
I think they could just
council
be.
approval.
I think they could just be posted.
Yeah, you're right.
Or something. Or what do you mean?
Added some minutes for that
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I'm just gonna. We can work on the grammar of all of this later.
Sure. Yeah, because we have so few today, we'll keep the discussion as sort of fluid as we can, just to be more productive. And then I will do a call right at the end if there are additional amendments or anything that we missed for folks. Yeah, Emma?
Just wondering if they're all being posted together, is there any kind of like formatting that we want to remain consistent with? Does that matter? Okay.
We could. Yeah. We could hand it a template. No. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We can. That doesn't have to be in the policy, but we could. We could create, and that'll be easier for counselors to create a template that you can follow.
I mean, I think all of our counselors are great, but is there anything we should put in that's like holds people to writing this?
It's in the policy.
Okay.
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
I don't know, like,
Like a consequence if they don't.
if you miss like all 3 reports, well, I guess
Oh,
that's the
I
end of the
see.
year, but.
They're accountable to their own.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, God bless.
Publicly shamed. No. Okay, cool. Shall we move on from counselor reports? Is everyone okay with that? And like Mitch said, you can always bring something up after we've finished it on this way.
One more comment. Yeah.
Just
Okay.
that it's the same, should you have summer term? You have fall term and winter term. So
No,
you
it's
just
like the
put
summer.
Over the summer term.
Yeah.
It's the first one.
But just adding the word
Oh.
teacher.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not a big thing at all, but just so that it's consistent.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, childcare subsidies. So this is totally new, which is great. So yeah, I can just read through it. Counselors or committee members who require childcare in order to attend a meeting will be provided with a subsidy for each meeting up to the following amounts: $50 for a council meeting or general meeting, $25 for a committee meeting. Members wishing to access a childcare subsidy must submit and sign a statement outlining childcare expenses to the Vice President, Finance and Operation no more than 2 weeks following the meeting in question. The rates outlined for this policy are for the 2016-2017 year and shall be increased by the rate of change in the Canadian Price Index in a given year. If the rate of change is negative, the rate shall remain constant. Comments, concerns? Yes.
I would just point out that, kind of like if you increase it by like the rate of change every year, that could escalate very quickly. Let's say like for some reason the CPI jumped to like 10% next year and just kept staying like constant at 10%. It's going to increase the amount that is getting paid out a lot very quickly. So
By how
that's-
much?
Well, it'd be $5 a year. But like it could. Like
And it also depends on the amount of like childcare, outlying childcare expenses. So if
Yeah.
those went up with it, then it would be like reasonable, but if they didn't, then it wouldn't impact us much.
Bart, did you have something to say?
Yeah, having it tied to the CPI is ideal. Ideally, we could charge tied to like the child care index or whatever. We don't have that option. As well, if we do run into some kind of crazy hyperinflation scenario, because this is policy, we can change it at a board level pretty much immediately. So if it does end up doing this, like breaking our bank, we can, as a council, fairly quickly reverse any changes.
Is there anything else that folks know about that we would tie it to that makes more sense than CPI? Cool. Okay, that's a good thought though. Anything else? Cool. Okay, so those are all the official additions made to the to the council policy. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring to the attention? Do you want a second to read through again to refresh your memory since last time that you excitedly read through it? Yes, Brandon?
In the council meeting procedures, the land acknowledgement is different from the one in here.
From the one where, in, meeting procedures?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that one's the, okay, so yeah, I can speak to that. That is the,
Oh, general meeting.
general meeting. That's the, land acknowledgement, and then this is the shortened version for the purpose of keeping timely things in meetings. So if folks feel that we should state the long version every meeting, we totally could.
Thoughts, discussion on the short versus the long for AG
I
and
think that it-
council?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that it's good to have kind of the different lengths for the different style of meetings, just in the sense that the longer ones, the more important meetings, shows we're taking it much more seriously, or more important meetings. Not much more seriously, but taking it like with a much more critical eye, or more important meetings.
Any thoughts or arguments for doing a long one or both?
Yeah. I don't feel strongly about.
Yeah, no, I just thought they
Yeah.
were the same thing.
Right. Well, there is different spelling though in Vermont. Which one? They're spelled differently, each document. Okay. I don't know, actually what's correct. But yep, I can look at that.
Okay, so just because we had some back and forth, we'll just make sure everyone's okay having the two different lengths. Is there any opposition to having the two different lengths for the AGM versus a state council meeting? Yeah. But you'll check into that, Kathy?
Yeah, I
just
can
to
check into the
get the
spell. Well,
consistency.
these are gonna go through a copy editing before
Sure.
they get passed. Cool. Any other things about council? Yeah, Bart?
Sorry, coming out the counselors as employees, is that common here to have counselors be allowed to be employees?
I was last year.
Yeah, it happens, not often, but it happens with part-time staff. So if, yeah, like Rin was a counselor last year and worked at the info desk.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's just, yeah, we didn't do that back home, but that's how it's done here, that makes sense. Cool, I'm good.
Yep, Bill?
Okay, we'll give another 30 seconds for folks to do that last look over. If there's anything else they wanted to discuss or amend, revise, or just open up a little bit. And again, as policy, these are all things that if down the road you see something that you think should maybe be tweaked, that's something you can submit as a motion and we can address in a subsequent
Oh, should we discuss council meeting procedures while we're discussing council policy?
We can just do it next because they will
Okay.
pass that.
Yeah, it's fixed.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the council policy as it's been submitted and revised? Of course, it'll be subject to a copy editing review as well. Okay, Dylan, and seconded. Kathleen? Okay, is there any opposition to accepting the council policy as revised? Okay, seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent that passes.
Woo. Yeah. Is that our first policy pass as a council?
I think so.
Yeah. Good team. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna take a knee with executive and go on to council meeting procedures, just because we just talked all about council, so that makes sense to people?
Do you want to just remind them the difference between a standing resolution and policy for the purpose of tweaking or adjusting forms?
Yes. A policy. What? I don't know the difference.
Okay, so the council meeting procedures that were circulated, these are proposed as a standing resolution, not as a policy. Standing resolution can be adjusted, tweaked on the fly very quickly by a simple majority vote in council. They're meant to sort of be guidelines. They're meant to be sort of an efficiency piece to help structure the meetings to the, the specific needs of a given council or of a given group. So they're not nearly as fixed or rigid. If like halfway through a meeting, we just want to tweak one of them, something that's really easy to do. So they're not quite as intensive. You don't need to pass notices of motion and bring motions forward to amend them like you would with the policy.
Thanks for that, Mitch. Yeah, so I think with this one, it's fairly short. We can just go through and if anyone has any issues, they can raise them because there's, nothing.
Yeah, I just pointed out last time, the first line, maybe just change the meeting, council meetings will be a maximum of 3 hours in line.
Right.
Those on the phone, we're now on to the council meeting procedures. Was it in the same document as?
No, it's a separate one.
Okay.
Oh, shoot, I don't know if you. Did you folks have this one from the last time you had the documents on the phone?
It was in the last.
It was in the last time that the policies were all circulated?
I've got a copy still.
Can be a maximum.
Which document is it?
It's called Council Meeting Procedures Standing Resolution.
Okay.
Should we also adjust that for general meeting procedures?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got that one.
great. And Shauna?
Sorry, I'm all good. I'm partly at work, so I'm trying to do both, but I'm good, no worries.
No worries, thanks.
Thanks.
Hardly.
Cool. Okay, any other things about council meeting procedures? Standing resolution. The little boxes won't be in the, that was just a formatting.
I kind of like
They were emojis.
Really?
They weren't.
We did have a small discussion last week, I remember, about alternating between for and against on motions.
Right.
So that's there. If anyone else wants to open that up again or re-raise that, we can speak to that again. But again, it's flexible as a standing resolution in a situation like today where it's a much more open discussion. I'm not trying to mediate too critically whether it's for or against for the purpose of speaking. But when we get into some more heated debates, that'll be important.
Oh, the other thing that, sorry, I know we just passed the council one, but the other thing that we talked about at the bylaw and policy review committee level was on 6J of, the council, I'm jumping back now, it's okay, Mitch, it was,
It's already been passed.
yeah, it has been passed. Well, it's just, I was just bringing it up because some folks thought that it was kind of weird when someone was being appointed to a position that they were asked to leave the room for the in-camera discussion because if someone said something that was untrue, they wouldn't be able to defend themselves. So I don't know, folks. Bart, do you remember this discussion?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I do. I forgot that was in council. I thought it was an executive. That doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, so that is a big question that we actually do need to answer, hopefully today.
Yeah, so let's finish the
Sure.
council procedure, and then we'll just need a 2/3 vote to reopen
Okay, sweet.
the council policy.
Sorry about that, team. I had it written down, I mentioned it here. Cool. Okay, any other things for council meeting procedures? Cool.
Brianna?
Can I make a motion to accept it?
Sure. Okay, so we've got a motion to accept the standing resolution for council meeting procedures. Is there a seconder on that motion? Amina, thanks. And is there any opposition to accepting the standing resolution as it's been circulated for the council meeting procedures? Okay, seeing no opposition, I'll take it on unanimous consent that that passes. So can we get a motion just to reopen the discussion on the council policy? Kathleen, and seconded. Kelsey, thanks. Just by a show of hands, everyone in favor of reopening that discussion today? Nice and high, just makes it a lot easier. Okay, that's more than 2/3, that's easy.
Thanks, team.
So that passes, we'll move forward and reopen the discussion, which means we'll do another vote at the end to accept them as revised. So if there was anything else that you wanted adjusted that you also just sort of realized now, that's open on the table as well. No worries, so. can you
So yeah, I'll just
pick
speak to
up?
that really quickly. So the item is 6J in the policy, and it just says the chair of council will then ask all of the candidates to leave the room. There shall be a brief in-camera debate, and the comment here is just that councillors have raised that this might be something worth reconsidering. It prevents candidates from defending themselves against personal attacks. Perhaps this could be remedied with like a vote to move in camera on the discussion if need be, or start the discussion out of camera, and then if councillors feel that it should be in camera, it could be not. I will say that the point of having it in camera is to protect councillors as well. So if we're talking about the employment of something, and someone wants to speak on someone's behalf, then the person who doesn't get hired could watch the thing, watch it after, come back and say a personal attack on that councillor, you didn't vote for me, or it seemed like you were against me, or something like that. So it is a bit of who are we trying to protect. It's a conversation worth having, for sure. Yeah.
Isn't it a bit like if there's two people up for an appointment, isn't it a bit like awkward if we just like talk about who we're gonna pick in front of them?
Yeah, and like let's say if this was a normal interview process for a job, the person who's getting hired for the job wouldn't be sitting at the table for that process.
Yeah, Mackenzie?
I would also point out that if you feel like someone's saying something untruthful about you, the person who's being voted on could also sit here, listen in, and then if anyone says anything negative about them, they could just say like, that's a lie,
Yeah.
if they want the spot. So it's kind of like, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Is there anything in like the oath of office that's like, don't be shady, tell the truth?
Yeah.
Which I guess is just like words, but like, is it?
Yeah, I think it. Is there anything?
First one, act honestly and in good faith.
That's hard though, because somebody saying something, they could understand it to be the truth, even if it's not.
Oh shit.
I think like we as counselors have to respect each other enough to like not slander people for the reason of hiring. I don't think you're gonna get any like free conversation with people that are applying for the same job in a room. I think that's the most awkward thing.
Yeah.
Has that like been an issue previous years or anything?
Yeah, that's the reason it's brought up, is that folks have we've had experiences where, let's say, the table is really split and there are counselors who personally know a person going for the job, and then and they have had a negative experience with that person in the past. They'll like disclose that information, and then all the counselors will be privy to it. Yeah. So I mean, we could. I wonder if is there something that could be like, does it work with our mandate that like on a case by case basis you could technically have a vote to go?
We can always do that.
Yeah, you can always have a vote to like go out of camera or in camera if you want, right?
Yeah, that's always on the table,
Yeah.
yeah. This is just required to be
Yeah.
in camera, yeah.
Bart?
Sorry, I was gonna say if we want to do that, it might be worthwhile putting in that council reserves the right to move into camera during the discussion time. Just because going to camera is such a big move as far as supposed transparent organizations, having it in policy would give us something to point to as to like why we're doing that in a decade from now, when none of us are here and nobody remembers this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Could you just simply do it that keep this, because I think you should have an in-camera discussion, but that doesn't mean that you really have to make that decision in that discussion at that point. So if there is slander going on, counselors feel that there is, you could just simply bring them back into the room and ask them about something that you can't do that, can you? It's in camera.
Well,
Could you read it out?
you can't. It's also kind of awkward to ask them like personal questions in front of, or I don't know.
Well, it would be the same thing as if they were sitting in here listening
That's
in
true.
the
Yeah,
first place.
that's true. Okay, so I feel like if I could kind of read the vibes at the table, we could leave that it is in camera, and then we can always motion to have the discussion outside of camera if someone makes a request, and then that'll be a council vote.
Okay, we'll take that as a vote then. Is everybody okay with that proposal to leave it as it is? Is there any opposition to leaving it as it's written to have the in-camera discussion? Keeping in mind that there's always the option to vote at that council meeting to open it up.
So like during a debate time, you just say,
Yeah, so like, I think like if someone, let's say, if there's someone going for the job who doesn't feel comfortable with the room talking about them while they're not in there, they can make a request for council to vote to do the discussion outside of camera, or to not move in camera.
Yeah, but council reserves the right sort of either way
To
be
make
in
a
camera or not, which they reserve outside of this context as well.
Yeah.
Can we make sure that, say, like, this is happening during the AGM, you've got people who are coming in who are new, that they're told about this, so that it's not just council members who get here all the time who know?
We don't really do appointments during AGM.
Or, sorry, not AGM, I mean, no, the end of semester, when we're, what is that one called?
I think you talked about AGM.
Am I? Okay,
Maybe.
well, yeah, like at the end of each semester when you appoint new people, like I was new, and so if you guys can make this rule at or if you make this decision at the start of the year, then I would know that I passed that.
Right.
Right. So that would, so you're just saying, Shauna, like as a part of, like, to members who are going up for appointments, just have like a document or a clause showing them their privileges, like what they can have?
Yeah, I'd say like I'm okay with, what we're discussing just to make sure that people are aware. Yeah, like if they just a pause or, to let them know.
Okay. I think that's cool. We could like create a document and council could approve that document.
Sure, go ahead.
Could you just include that in J? If a candidate feels like they want to move for conversation in our voting member, they can just motion to have a discussion of, like just have that in J so that it's.
They can request it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of redundant to have that in policy because just any member has the right to come to a council meeting and motion for anything, whatever they want. Like, if they want to bring a motion to council, they can do so. Yeah.
It's just if the confusion is that people don't know that they can do that,
Right.
you just include it in the language.
Right.
It's very clear that you have the right.
Okay. Brandon?
When the chair explains during appointments how the process will work,
Essentially, they just read this section of the
so is that good enough?
policy.
I don't know, it's in the moment, but like, is there a way to like know in advance who's gonna appoint for what and like get them a document that lays out like their rights in that?
I think currently as it stands, all that there is as far as potential candidates getting an appointment, the expectation is that they will have read the policies and the bylaws to
Yeah.
understand how the appointment process is gonna work. So if there's a way to include it in here, then that would have it all in one place, and then if they get blindsided or don't realize that that's something that is a possibility, then that's on them for not having reviewed the policy in terms of how their appointment was gonna work. But there is the alternative of, rather than just leaving that onus on the candidate having some form of declaration or notice or something. I think what's important is that it's explicitly stated here that there's an in-camera discussion, but council reserves the right at any time. And I think this was Bart's point, but Bart, correct me if I'm overstepping. Council reserves the right to go in camera if they need to on a number of issues. It's not, this isn't the exclusive, this isn't the only time that could happen.
Then it might not be the worst thing to include a line that's like, people reserve the right to like ask not to be in camera, but like, I don't know, council.
But that'll still be subject to the vote.
Yeah,
So it's not that the candidates have the right to assert that they're allowed to sit in the room.
no, but ask.
They're allowed to ask that there be a vote held on whether or not they can. And that's kind of opening up or allowing council members to show
Oh, yeah,
deference or
so like
something before
shut
they make a
things
decision.
down.
Yeah.
My opinion of including something like that in a policy is that it just seems like a bit of it just seems like a redundancy because you could technically put that in everything in our policies, you know, like.
You can motion against it.
Yeah, you can always motion against something,
Okay, well, as it,
Yeah.
yeah, as it stands right now, there is an in-camera discussion that'll be held after the potential candidate has sort of stepped out after they've said their piece. Do we want to just vote on whether or not that piece is something that people are okay with?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like we're kind of,
Yeah, we are.
or maybe there's alternate routes that we can take as far as, you know, discussing ways to keep candidates more informed during the appointing process, whether it's through the nominating committee or through council itself. But
Yeah.
are there any proposed amendments to how it's written right now? Otherwise, we'll vote to accept it as it is. Any amendments or suggestions? Okay, well, before we move on from the council policy, is there anything else in the council policy outside of this piece that folks wanted to bring up, just because we have it open again? Is there anything else?
No, that's.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the council policy as rediscussed but not amended from the previous discussion? Dylan, thanks, and seconded. Kelsey? Any opposition to accepting the council policy as it stands now, as we just looked at it? Okay, seeing none, take it on unanimous consent that this version of the council policy passes. So now there's the first policy passed.
Double check.
Woo! Okay, we're gonna start with resolution.
Cool.
Talk about
Great.
exec.
Thanks for going through that with me, team. Okay, we are now on to executive policy. So yeah, the only new parts there that have been added in is under union staffing. This before the GM review was always something that was mandated, but it wasn't mandated like this, so we just wanted to have a more official process to it. So anyways, the president shall conduct a performance evaluation of the general manager by March 1st of each year based on the general manager's job description and their goals set for the year. The review must be approved by the executive officers by March 15th and presented to council during an in-camera session at the first council meeting following the approval of the evaluation. So yeah, this is just meant to, well, first of all, hold the president accountable to create a document that can be put in the archives looking at general manager reviews, but as well to keep the executive members as well as the councilors informed of the general manager. Yeah. Any thoughts about this?
Questions, discussion?
Sorry, phone people, do you have the executive policy?
The most updated version even.
Okay, great. Cool. Anything? Moving on. Okay, and then the transition period. Okay, cool. So the transition period shall include a 2-week period with the outgoing and incoming executive working together full-time, not to be completed before April 30th. The executive officers-elect shall be paid prorated honoraria for any part of this 2-week period that occurred before May 1st. The outgoing executive officers shall be paid prorated honoraria for any part of this 2-week period that occurs after April 30th. So in the past, because of transition, it just worked well to have a week at the end of April and a week at the beginning of May. So while while the incoming executive are starting their job for the first week, they still have someone to help them through if they need it. Yeah, transition is a long process and it should be thorough. And it's also important to have it in writing that the executive should be working together full time, so the outgoing folks don't just peace out and leave them hanging. Any thoughts about transition?
Questions, amendments, concerns? Okay, are there any other questions, comments, amendments, or concerns for anywhere else on the executive policy? And you can take an extra 30 seconds just to look it over again.
When are the outgoing executive officers technically supposed to be like done?
They're done their term, May 1st is the official switch, but that year they mandate when the transition ends, and they're only supposed to be done by the time the transition ends.
Okay, so when transition?
Yeah.
And is it just not to be completed before April 30th so that there's not 2 weeks in April? Or?
Yeah, I think so.
They don't take office till the 1st.
Yeah.
So I have to
Oh.
stay until the 30th, so that there's always a give up.
Yeah.
Okay,
So like
gotcha.
the next person doesn't take office till
Okay.
Okay, any other comments, questions, concerns, proposed amendments to the executive policy as circulated? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the executive policy as circulated? Dylan, and a second? Mary, thanks. And anyone opposed to accepting the executive policy as circulated and discussed? Okay, seeing none, I'll take on unanimous consent that the executive policy also passes.
Woo!
Okay, we tabled the voter identification policy. So that's all for the stuff that we opened up last week. There is one new discussion we're going to start today. This was submitted, it was given in the notice to minutes at the last meeting. This is the society policy proposed amendment from BART. So that was circulated with the council package as well. I didn't include the full society policy because it's a big one. You've all got access to that on reference online and right in front of you on the screen, which is perfect. Thanks. So Bart, do you just want to speak first, given that this was your motion, speak to sort of generally why you wanted each of these amendments, and then we'll get into some discussion about each of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first off, I do want to make sure they are submitted separately.
Sure.
Because of, just because I think they can go forward on their own minutes, or on their own merit. The first one is for the annual general meeting. So I know that BLSS, we are currently not ratified because our constitution calls for an AGM to be held, among other reasons, to be held the second semester, where most, I think, general meetings are held, and the people at the table can tell me otherwise. So this motion would just make the language in the policy reflect the fact that most general meetings are held at the end of term and not at the start of term. I figured this is fair for the societies involved because that's when the DSU does their general meeting as well. So just figured we'd keep everybody on the same playing field, kind of on the same schedule. The second one, I just don't like loaded documents. I think they're not necessary language. It contributes to the feeling of certain people not being able to get into governance because there's just so much extra language. But I have had a discussion with Dylan where he has talked about why it's in there, so he'll have some points on that. And the third one is just unnecessarily confusing language between general meeting and annual general meeting, in my suggestion, to kind of really delineate the language in the policy.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Bart, just to confirm, so I've got your numbering as well, because we'll do these separately. So the first one you want to discuss is about the annual AGM. That's regarding 9D sub 4 in the policy.
Yep.
Second one relates to 9I in the policy.
Yep.
And the third is 11C.
Oh, I had it as 10, but I might have made a mistake.
You did. It's okay.
Okay. I apologize.
Don't worry.
Cool.
It happens once a semester.
Okay, so let's open up discussion for the proposed amendment to the society review policy, particularly the amendment to 9D sub 4.
Can everyone read that? Sorry, out there. Can I make it bigger? There we go. So that's the policy as it currently stands? No,
so
sorry, I wasn't asking you, I was just addressing everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
around when it needs to be held?
So currently, language it's a list of goals and objectives for the coming year. I don't know about every other group at the table, but I know that our elections aren't done until late March, so holding an AGM in April would make sense. So the goals and objectives of the coming year would then have to be held in, say, the September, October area. Just to kind of fit what that language means. Here's what we're going to do with our year as executive.
Okay, any questions, comments, concerns, proposed changes, opposition to this First Amendment, Rhiannon?
The only thing, Bart, in your wording, you left out approving the budget of the society. Was that intentional?
Yeah, so the budget should be approved by council every year. What I included was approved the financial statement. So because at the end of the year, the students will look through what the spending actually went to and confirm that it was like in line with the budget. Just like the DSU does, we don't take our budget to the AGM, we do our budget at council, just like every group probably should, because doing the budget by AGM is a recipe for disaster.
Some do right?
And that's fair. I think that, most, I can't imagine, say, the Arts and Science Society doing a budget with 200 people in a room at a general meeting would be ideal.
So would this then stop, if they're doing if they're doing the budget just with their council and then doing, just to clarify, they would do the budget just with their council and then do financial statements at the general meeting?
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, it doesn't stop you from holding a general meeting in the fall semester and doing your budget. That's still in line. But the one required one through the policy would be at the end of the year.
So my only question then, Raina.
No, you.
Okay, should we add like language around what financial statements means? Because that, I don't really know like what that means for society. Like what did you picture it
That
being?
is definitely something that we could put into this. I don't, yes, I guess the answer to that is yes, and if we wanted to table and we could determine what those look like, we can, or we can pass and then just have a second amendment come later.
I don't have a huge issue with it. I don't know that there's the language of financial statements anywhere else in policy. Brandon?
I personally like keeping the budget in there. I think it's like generally a good thing to be like accountable to like general membership instead of like council just making decisions on money, but that's kind of just my thoughts on that. I do see where you're coming from though, but yeah.
I think that there is also language in this policy discussing how council meetings are to be, or like meetings of the various groups are supposed to be open to all members, so they're still welcome to come. But again, you should be doing your budget in March. And this is where me and the DSU disagree. The current exec should not be budgeting for the next year's exec.
Yeah, but like being given the chance to attend a council meeting and being given like a vote on the budget are different.
All right, that's fair, and I think that if the DSU starts doing their budget at the AGM, I will completely agree with you. But until that happens, I think that having it at the end as an approval process is more in line with what we are as Type 1 society.
This also doesn't stop people from presenting their budgets, it just forces them to present financial statements, where before they could have presented a new budget instead of their old financial statements. So, yeah, it's more accountable.
Any other comments or questions for Marcus?
Sorry, Bart, so this is under the
Oh.
assumption that AGMs are
I-
held at the end of the
Just give me
year?
1 second. I think that we lost the caller and she's calling me back.
Sure.
Hey, are you back?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Sorry about that. No, that's cool. I don't know what happened.
Kate, do you want to just repeat your question?
Just for clarification again, the change is under the assumption that their AGMs happen at the end of the year? In March?
Yeah, so my assumption is that most student societies do the changes at the end of the, or do their AGMs at the end of the year.
So what about the societies, I'm aware of at least one that has their AGM at the beginning of the year, where they elect everyone.
Fair. I think that there might be a potential to change the language, maybe to remove for entirely, to not have any language that implies whether the general meeting should be held at the start or the end of the year. Because otherwise, the ones that held it, otherwise we're influencing either the people who hold it at the start, the people who the end. And that's why I brought it to council, because I wasn't sure if there was anybody that did it at the start. So I also think that the groups that do it at the start of the year should have access to financial statements of the society. And the presentation of achievements of the society could just be a discussion of what they've done, or what was done the previous year to bring new students up to speed, if they decided to do it in the first semester. So I think that this is definitely less binding, and less kind of contorting than the old language was.
Any other questions or clarifications, points of opposition, but just not relating to the definition of financial statements? We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I think just not, limiting to forcing societies to choose one time point in the year, just to keep it open, I think, more inclusive.
Not a bad idea.
Like ours are held at the end of the year,
Yeah.
but,
Like most society, bulk of societies hold them at the end of the year, for sure. But there are some who don't.
and you do talk about like past what you achieved, and then also a little bit of what the new exec's gonna do, and introducing the president and stuff, so.
I think that maybe there's potential to just, for the amendment, cut the presentation of achievements in society for the previous year and just leave the financial statements. Because, like Randy said, every member should have the opportunity to discuss the finance of the organization. And financial statements can be presented at any time throughout the year because they are a snapshot of a group's like financial position.
Okay, Rihanna?
I actually really like the presentation of achievements thing because it otherwise there's nothing that's there's no necessary meat to it. What if it was I don't know, it might be a complicated sentence, but depending on time of year, if you have a fall AGM, a list of goals or objectives, and if you have a winter one, the presentation of achievements. I don't know.
Can we just say recent achievements? And that allows it to be flexible to either fall or winter?
I think that even just an or statement, so a presentation of achievements of the society for the previous year and or the goals of the society for the coming year.
Okay, can you be tracking that?
Sorry.
Kathleen typing that as an amendment.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, Bart, can you say that again?
Just wait, I have to pull it up because I have to follow the society policy out first.
Totally.
Okay.
So cut the and after the comma after of the society. So it says a presentation of achievements of the society for the previous year.
Yeah.
And or the goals of the society for the coming year.
So I'm starting after the financial statements.
No, you're cutting that and then you're going to the end.
And then saying,
After year.
I see.
You do and or.
and or a list.
Of goals or objectives for the coming year.
Cool, so as it reads now, include an opportunity for the general membership to approve the financial statements of the society, a presentation of achievements of the society for the previous year, and or a list of goals or objectives of, for the coming year.
Just a language thing.
Yeah.
When you use the word the and or, you can take one of them.
Yeah.
Because that completely switches it. It changes to financial statements, presentation of this,
Yeah.
or this.
So it should
they
be
don't they only have to do one.
Financial statements of the society, period.
And
As
may,
well as.
Good point.
Sorry.
Okay,
So Bart, as it reads now, with the proposed amendment, including an opportunity for the general membership to approve the financial statements of the society, as well as a presentation of achievements of the society for the previous year and or a list of goals or objectives for the coming year.
Perfect, that works better than intended.
Okay. So for that amendment, because we wanted to
yeah,
discuss
let's vote
financial
those
statements
down.
as well.
Oh,
Sure.
okay, sure.
But no, we can vote on that first one. So is there any other changes anyone wants to make to that sentence before we move on? Because we'll define financial statements as well. Okay, is there any opposition to accepting that amendment? We will address another one before accepting the whole amendment 49D4. Any opposition to that sentence, essentially? Okay, seeing none, I'll take it as passing, that amendment goes through, but before we pass this amendment as a whole, let's go back to financial statement, because that's something that was raised, people wanted to define that before we vote.
Sure. So I do realize that financial statement actually has a very particular definition that involves balance sheet, income statement, and that, those are the two big ones that can do change in equity and cash flow, which I don't think are useful for our purposes. So I guess my question to the assembled council is that during your group's AGM, what does the presentation of financial information look like?
Yep, yeah.
Like budget versus actuals?
Yep, cool.
But I think that's pretty much it for most.
Breakdown of
Yeah.
breakdown of spending.
Breakdown of spending.
Like noting like what went over under by large amounts?
Yeah.
Spending of society, yeah, never mind, keep talking, I'll say.
Well, yeah, no, I know where you're going with that. It could just be proof that the spending of the society reflects their budgets and actuals. So they have to prove. No, Dylan?
Well, I think financial statements is like, it's
Fine.
referenced throughout, like it's what's referenced in the audit process, so it's, like a society's financial statements include all of their statements relating to money, so wherever they track their money. So it's, I don't think we need to define it, but I think like we've accepted that it's not defined in other places, so it's where they track their money.
Okay, so in your auditing process, there's comments about financial statements, so there is a working definition?
I think he's just saying that there's a perceived definition, so therefore we may not have to define it here. And you can just leave it open to folks' interpretation.
If we do that, it might be better to change statements to information, because financial statements does have an accepted definition in the business world. So it might be better to say approve the financial information of the society.
Well, that's more, like where financial statements is referenced somewhere in DSU policy, like financial information.
Oh,
is
okay, no, so if it's referenced somewhere good, I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, cool, I'm good.
Emma, thanks.
I guess my only thing with saying financial statements is that even though it's referenced elsewhere, it's referenced in places relative to like bookkeeping. So when I say when I hear present financial statements, to me that's like, here is everything we've spent. It's tracking everything, which nobody wants to hear about at an AGM. So like, in some ways, that's why I prefer a bit of the financial information, because we show like charts of like general groups of where our money has been spent versus the reserve and what our budget is and what we were planning on, and a more of an overview rather than financial statements. To me seems a lot more detailed than what's necessary to be presented.
Two questions. One, could we put like a summary of the financial statements?
Yeah.
And two, I don't know if I'm stupid, but like, do they need to approve the financial statements still? What does that mean? Is it like you can't change them?
Like review, I guess, should be the language, but
Yeah.
I think like if you have the thing is like you don't want any society hiding their financial statements from their members. So if you have a society that is kind to their members and wants to summarize them, then that's ideal. And if you want to mandate a summary as well, but I think like having more information than not enough is better. So if they have everything there, it's safer than like summarizing in the way that could hide. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's also, if we're adding a review, potentially, there's nothing indicated that review would need to be exhaustive. So there's still the opportunity for the society to sort of curtail if they chose to.
I just have another point to bring up after this discussion.
Okay, yeah, let's finish up the wording of this section here. So if we were to adjust it to say, include an opportunity for the general membership to review a summary of the financial statements of the society. Is there somebody who would motion for that amendment? Does that cover what people are thinking? I'm just trying to gel 6 or 7 different perspectives here to get a firm amendment to this so we can move forward.
So to review a summary of the financial statements of the society, or what are we to settle on that part?
Any discussion, opposition, questions about that particular phrasing?
Review makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm okay with having financial statements in there if summary is before it, because then it wouldn't have to be every receipt.
Yeah.
Well, and like, as far as being transparent, that information is available to members whenever they want to ask for it anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Environment, so.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept that amendment, adding review and summary to that line about financial statements to clarify? Bill, and second, Emma, thanks. And Bart, did you hear that okay? I know this was your sort of.
Yeah, no, I heard that okay, and that worked great for me.
Okay. Is there any opposition to accepting that amendment to the 9D4 proposal, adding review and summary to help clarify financial statements? Okay, seeing no opposition, I'll take it that passes. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns about this first amendment to the society review policy pertaining to the annual AGM's 9D sub 4? Yeah.
Just I think a grammatical possible thing. Can you change in front of as? I don't think that should be a brand new sentence because we use as well as. You're kind of comparing two things. It should be, I think, review a summary of the financial statements of the society, comma, as well as this or this or this and this. I think as well as separates the two.
Yeah,
It's just when you start a sentence with as well as, you need some
Sure.
or just as well, comma, when.
Sure.
There also doesn't have to be a comma after year in the last line, so there's only 2 things listed, so you don't need an
So
option.
we will,
Yeah, it gets covered.
we do have an open position that the call has been put out for somebody.
Oxford comma with
We
2
are
words.
lacking a
Ridiculous.
Kaylee right now. For those who were on council last year, Kaylee's the sort of official policy person who would do the copy and polish these, because they do get a bit clunky when we're adding these and stuff. So no worries, we're not going to vote on motions for punctuation tonight, so we'll have that taken care of. Any other questions or comments for this one?
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to bring up, it's like back to like the budget thing, and if people are all against this, then that's cool too. But when I think of policies, I think of like them being written for like the worst situation, and like there's like societies, like levied societies with like tens of thousands of dollars of like operating budgets, and like I just feel more comfortable with those being passed by like general membership than just like small councils, because there's some that have like $100,000, And it's like, if the general council or the executive chooses to just be like, I don't know, we're like spring breaking, or I don't know, that won't happen, but like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I just like the safety of like budgets being like passed or reviewed by general membership. Maybe review would be a better one. I don't know.
Go ahead, Bart.
So, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, and I think that if you want to sit down and hammer out a redone policy review that separates levied society from student groups, I would be happy to do that. But as it stands, trying to make every faculty group operate like we have a budget of $100,000, it's really it kind of really hurts our ability to organize and to like be an effective group. In my experience.
Yeah.
Keep in mind as well, in the old version, it was either or, right? It wasn't
It was either or, yeah.
previously mandatory, for a budget review.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, concerns, amendments?
Motion to approve this section.
Okay, we have a motion to approve this amendment to the society review policy. We have a second. Dylan, thanks. And any opposition to accepting this amendment to the society review policy? Okay, seeing none, we'll take it that it passes, so. Okay, so Bart, your next one, deleting in 9 sub I, if I have that correct.
Yeah, I already talked about why I put that in, but I'll speak to Dylan to explain why it actually might be useful information.
Okay, Dylan, go ahead.
So it just basically says that societies can't go against our bylaws, which is true anyway, but basically having this in policy saves us on legal fees. So it's there and we can easily point to it. It is a little redundant, but again, in practice, it could save us a lot of money. So I'd love to keep it there. So, yeah.
So Bart, are you no longer motioning to delete 9 sub I? Are you withdrawing that?
If that's an option that I have, yeah, I've got no problem withdrawing that based on the information I received.
Okay, well, given that it's on the table, we'll allow anyone else to discuss or talk about the option of removing or keeping that sub-line in there.
So it's just that it's defined who is a member in the Constitution.
No, sorry.
No.
It's up high is, it's up
It's
there.
up on here.
So it's, you have to
Sorry.
adhere to
As
external
PI.
laws.
Gotcha.
So they can't say like
that too.
But we like, follow policy, but your policy can say whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So these things like supersede the policy, which goes without saying.
Oh.
But
Okay, any other questions or comments or concerns about that? If Bart's going to withdraw the motion, does anyone else want to pick that motion up to keep moving to delete that? Otherwise, we'll leave it in. Okay, so we'll take it, Bart, you withdrew that motion, so we're not actually going to delete 9 sub I. So on to the third. This was 11C, corrected from what you had circulated. Bart, can you just speak briefly again about that one?
Sure. So as there are 3 kinds of meetings. Meeting, what is a something and what is the accidental thing. I think that having that language is unnecessarily confusing. And my understanding is that the general meeting refers to a board meeting or a council meeting, a meeting of the people who are guiding the organization. And so I figured that the language change would just help keep everything clearer and make it easy for anybody trying to read these documents.
Okay, any comments, questions, oppositions, amendments to this rephrasing, Rihanna?
Maybe if we put like council/board,
Yeah.
because some people operate boards that are like execs.
Yeah.
My big question is, what do all of you call your group that you go back and report to? Because that's what this should be called.
It's different between the two. One's a board, one's a council.
Wonderful. So yeah, I would be totally fine with saying council or board meeting.
Yeah, I think we say council and then executive. Like, cool.
So Bart, you're all right with board/council?
It might be better to say board, I don't care, slash, that'll work.
Just to note that CI would need to be changed as well.
Yeah, just
But yeah, we can include a with update to the language of the document as necessary.
You're awesome.
I don't know if it's gonna be important to include it, but mine is actually student union. For the Faculty of Agriculture, like we have our own student union. So I don't know, or a student association, I guess. So, I don't know if that would need to be edited to include the Faculty of Agriculture.
But yeah, but when you all meet, do you call it your students' union meeting, or what do you call it?
Well, for us, it's a student representation in council, I guess.
Council.
Group, but I also work with the student association.
Which would be like
Right.
the exec.
Yeah, so your exec would be like an exec meeting, and then that would be your council meeting, I guess? Your larger
Yeah, we
meeting?
can call it a council, it's fall within that. I guess.
Okay, yeah, so it would be
I'm calling
okay.
it.
Yeah, you're fine, I think, for that.
Yeah, this is a very simple language update. It's not taking away anybody's rights or ability to be your own wonderful agricultural thing.
Rhiannon, what was the other section we needed to amend for this?
Oh, no, it was
Cool, never mind, okay,
it's just all tens.
great.
Okay. Are there any other comments, questions, concerns, amendments, or opposition to adding /council to address the issue that Bart raised? Okay, do we have a motion to accept that amendment? Kathleen, and second, Dylan? Any opposition to accepting the amendment to 11 sub C, just adjusting the definitions of general meetings and board meetings for clarity's sake? Okay, seeing none, I'll take it on unanimous consent that passes as well. Thanks for those, Bart.
Thanks for dealing with my nitpicking. I appreciate it, council.
So it'll get it'll get changed related to that.
So we switched general meeting to council board.
Yeah, so that.
But then this is gonna be
So, yeah, it'll get changed wherever general is.
So now, board meetings, quorums, 2/3 of the executive and 5.
Yeah, they mean the same thing.
Okay, moving on to business of the exec. So again, apologies on behalf of sort of all of us. Exec was on a wicked trip that I was super jealous of. I'm not going to talk about it.
Actually, we're all
Okay. So we didn't get the reports out prior, so they've been circulated in writing for all of you to see. So we're just going to let each of them speak briefly about what they've been up to. So we'll start with Kathleen.
I'd also just motion to circulate those electronically, so
Sure.
then folks who aren't here, and then folks that have it in their files too.
Sure.
Yeah, as usual, I won't go through my entire report. If folks have questions about it, they can ask me. A couple things I'll highlight though is we're currently hiring a DSU sexton director. So that'll be a person who acts as kind of a liaison between the DSU and Sexton campus to ensure that Sexton students are getting served in the right way and that their issues are being brought forth to the executive. As we do have a DSU Sexton office down there, they would be running that space, et cetera, et cetera. In the past, it has only been one position, but there is an opportunity. It was raised with last year's Sexton director that because engineers or people who go to school on that campus mostly have co-ops that sometimes they won't be there for half of the year, so there is an opportunity to maybe have 2 people in the role, so we're keeping it very open. So all that I would ask if folks could, if they know anyone on Sexton campus who may be interested, if they could help get the word out. We will be circulating it. I already contacted our Daniel, who's currently the person sitting on this council for engineering. We don't have an art planning rep yet, so hopefully that will happen soon. And then I'm also going to go through the dean down there to have a email circulation with the position. But if folks have other ideas of how to get that word out, we would like to have a stellar person in that job. Yeah, the other things that are going on, we are rebranding and doing new wayfinding in the sub, which is really exciting. I'm also taking on the project of doing the sub grand opening kind of thing. And so if folks have feedback on like what that should look like, that would be cool. The main thing that I was gonna run by this council, we do have a bit of funding to have a land recognition plaque of some sort with our new building to include that. So if folks have any, I'm obviously getting some feedback from DISC, the Dalhousie Indigenous Students Collective, as well as the Native Counseling Unit. But if people just have any ideas of where they think it would be most visible, we were thinking it could be visible outside, just like a podium out of the ground or something, rather than like on a wall inside the building. So yeah, if folks have ideas about that, it's an exciting time. I mean, the other thing that's really exciting that's still happening is the Office of the Young Person hiring is still going on. So that is hopefully going to be ready to go for September. The person hasn't been hired yet, so I would assume that they would probably be able to gain office by mid-September rather than the 1st of September. But it is happening, and officially their office will now be on the 4th floor. So that's cool. Of the sub. So that's cool. Yeah. I just like to rather you ask me questions.
Questions, comments, discussion points for Kathleen on her report?
Also, I would like feedback if like these reports are working. Like, would you like to hear about other things than the things that I normally include, etc.? Like, not necessarily right now, but if you have thoughts.
I don't know what you're not including though.
Yeah, sure. Sure. But if you're like, I would like an update on something, you know, like a stat or something. I don't know. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, there's no other, sorry.
What's wayfinding?
Oh, sorry. It's like how you make your way around a building. So
Signage.
signage. Yeah. Yeah. I mean words.
Okay, if there's no other comments or concerns, then Rhiannon, take it away.
Cool, sorry about the small font. Also, if there's grammar errors, I wrote this like in the airport. But ratification, still a thing. Tiger Society got axed. Generally smooth, mild confusion from some people, but been answering emails and directing people in the right direction. Society and Volunteer Expo, September 20th. Sign up at that link, which you can't click on a piece of paper, but yeah. Society training schedules online. There's some like mandatory things like the PEO training and financial training for people who have book obligations. But there's also a couple other things which should be fun. If you want to see anything in society training, just let me know. Met with DAGs today, talk about grad students. Greywood rebranding. I don't know if anybody else put this on here.
It's the weirdest format.
Yeah, I don't know. E&A office, we put out offers to 2 candidates for the E&A office. Hopefully they will be, you know, contract signing next week and get those started. Phone line, bit of a question mark right now, but working on that and like should know by the end of the week kind of the state of it. Yeah, a couple other things. Part-time staff training coming up. A week is as well. Society and Volunteer Expo again. Went to that conference. Incomplete sentence on Consent Culture Forum. But that's coming up as well. Oh gosh. Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
I'm going to be sending out electronic versions of these reports, so that if you have subsequent questions upon seeing an electronic copy or clicking on some links, of course you can always email back and forth.
Can I ask about the society training stuff?
Yeah.
It's new for me.
Yeah, so to ease like society transition a bit, well like, okay, some of it's mandatory, but some of it's like ease transition a little bit. So on the website, society resources training, so primary event organizer training is like the risk management and space booking stuff. Somebody from each society will need to do that in order to like book space. The treasurer training would be for people who are like levied faculty or constituent societies who like submit books. That'll be with Dylan to be like, this is how you do books.
Or anyone that wants
Or anybody who wants to, yeah.
That's our society.
Yeah, general interest societies who like are interested in that kind of stuff as well. And the other ones I've set up so far, some of them have snappy names. Apparitions, thank you, which is talking about the DSU app and how to use that. We'll get somebody from the app to do a little bit of live training with us. There's a lot of cool features that societies can use on the app, like push notifications, creating events on there that are on like a hub calendar, and other things, as well as just like how to, in a post-Tiger Society DSU, outreaching to members is still very important, but how is it done? So just like outreach and stuff. The next one is like Robert's Rules and Policy Review. So for people who want to like learn how to run more like efficient meetings, or want to be like, yo, we made a lot of decisions last year, but none of it's in writing. That kind of stuff, and like how to like follow your policies. And the last one is like planning equitable and accessible society activities. So that one will just be about like, you know, like a more inclusive lens to society life, how to make events and programming more inclusive and accessible to people, and breaking down hierarchies within organizational structures.
And they're all like early September?
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 training sessions for each of them spread out throughout September. Yeah, but if folks want to see more things, definitely open to that. And I also want to do more ongoing ones, but those will start in October.
Okay. And they're like an afternoon?
Oh God, no, like an hour.
Okay. I don't know. Just,
But yeah,
okay.
they're all kind of spread apart. You know, it might have been nice to put them all together, but not everybody wants to spend like an afternoon being talked at.
It's usually not the same person.
Yeah, the different people for
Yeah, it's different people. Cool, yeah.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns for you? Perfect, thanks. Moving on.
Sorry, I did have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Are these dates that all these things are happening in the report?
Sure.
They're on the website.
They're on the web.
Yeah, if you go to societies on the website and go to society resources down to society training, the sitemap, you can click on each of the training and sign up on a web form online, and it gives you the options for the time slot you want to go to.
Your societies,
Thank you.
your societies will get emails too.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, Dylan.
Okay. Not going to highlight too much. Working to finalize the cold beverage agreement by the end of this week. Right now we're in the home stretch. Capitalized, it looks great. Tiger Patrol. Met with Tiger Patrol to try and address some of the issues and complaints that we've heard, as well as that security's heard in the past. There's a wide range of them, from like music to harassment to just straight up ignoring calls. So we're hoping to institute some better oversight, and Jake over there is really excited. It's his first year that he's going to be actually overseeing the person that oversees Tiger Patrol. So they're changing the chain of command anyway. So they're really eager, and it sounds great. Suds was excellent. Phone line stuff, trying to figure something out. Oh, health and dental plan, that's what I wanted to talk about. It actually turns out that we might be able to change the plan to extend the coverage this year for the dental plan, which is something that sucks right now. So I'm working in the next 2 days to try and come up with, like, run a lot of projections on how it's gonna affect the future years. And like, we operate in a system where basically we earn a surplus just after we run a referendum, and then we slowly start going into a deficit. So we'll have surplus funds for so long, and so just looking at how that affects it and how soon we'll probably have to run a referenda if we change how quickly we eat out the surplus.
I'm so sorry to
Does
people
that
on the
make
phone
sense?
who can't see Dylan's hands right now.
Yeah. And no week's coming up, so that's a great time. Questions? Concerns?
Are you only looking at dental plan?
Right now, I'm only looking at the dental plan because it's so out of whack with the schools around here. In the year, I'd love to, but like even this, we do this at the cost of like burning all of our promotional material and stuff for the, or like informational material for the health plan for the year, or for the dental plan for the year. Because when I first approached them, they said it was too late, and then we had a meeting yesterday, and I kind of like badgered a little bit, and it kind of came out that it was possible. They just didn't want to, so now it's on like just the projection thing.
Get it, girl.
Is that with like Green Shield you talked to, or?
So our broker is CNC Insurance. They go, like they're just our broker, so they go
Okay.
and find. Right now, we're with Allianz this year.
Oh,
we're with.
yeah,
Yeah, but it changes like we've been.
Any other questions or comments, Dylan? All right, thanks, Dylan. Moving on, Anita.
Just to highlight a couple of things, lots of pride things happened. We met with Elections Nova Scotia in preparation for possible provincial election, as well as Elections HRM for municipal election. Elections Nova Scotia, we were talking about getting set up to do voting on campus, but the municipal elections will be e-voting, so we can set those up ourselves. Also attended a post-secondary education coalition meeting, which includes reps from DFA, CFS, that should say NSGEU. For DSAS, we met with the directors and went through the operations policy and have some proposed changes that we'll bringing to council soon. Yeah, and some upcoming actions. We have a tracking action tomorrow for the municipal elections. If anyone is interested, 10:30 to 12 at Halifax Grand Parade. As well, CFS is hosting a skills development symposium September 16 to 17 with some neat workshops, and I have like a little info package if anyone wants to look at it. But we have space for 3 council members to attend. They do want to know who's attending fairly soon, so if you want to attend, let me know. Yeah, that's all for me. Questions, comments?
You should talk a little bit more maybe about what skills is and like what people can expect to gain from it.
Sure, yeah. It's a 2-day free conference. Lunch is provided, well, food is provided. They've got a bunch of different workshops. I can read them off here. Building an inclusive student movement, campaigns organizing, events, financial tools, history of the student movement, human resources and student unions, media relations, and successful meetings.
Any other questions or comments for Anita? All right, thanks. Kelsey.
All right, awesome. So first thing on my list is sponsorship. For Orientation Week, we've secured nearly $50,000 in sponsorship. So that's amazing and allows us to provide a lot for students. And that's not even including the in-kind donations. We've got a ton of like tacos, for example. We'll be a field party. Like a lot of in-kind donations that are included in that. But that's really awesome. Katie, the OA coordinator, and I hired a social media coordinator for a week, which is cool. So you'll be able to check out some live streaming from Facebook, as well as the regular kind of like Snapchats, Instagram, tweets, etc. I'm working with Dal News right now on their back to school campaign. This is with a bunch of other folks from the university. They're looking at doing some profiles of students or faculty or staff or just kind of generally anyone that has kind of an interesting or cool story to tell about their experience at Dal. Generally a good experience is what they're looking for. So if anybody is like, oh, my professor is really awesome and I think that that would be a great person, or this person in my class, or maybe yourself, if you have somebody that you think should be profiled, just hit me up and we can suggest that name to them. Community Day is coming up September 10th. I think I talk about this every time, but it would be awesome if folks wanted to attend. There's now a Facebook event. You can click that you're going, but registration is through the CLDC Career and Leadership Development Center. So you can just go onto their website and register if you're interested. It's a day of volunteerism in the community. Comes with a barbecue and a lunch, or like a lunch and then a barbecue, I guess, in the evening. So that's kind of cool. I also went to the Student Union Development Summit conference. I'll talk slightly a little bit more, I guess, in detail about that. I attended a few different sessions. One of the ones I thought was most influential was there was a session on dealing with social media for videos. And so we actually have a music video coming out next week, which is going to be really exciting. So already using some of that. And I also went to one that had to do with crisis management when dealing with the media. So it's no surprise, there's a few scandals that happen at DAL every now and then, and so just being able to better respond to those media requests I think will be really awesome. We kind of generally, we have a Snapchat filter. That's going to be really cool. Feel free to use it even though it's not your first year. Like I said, the music video is coming out. We've given over 40 bursaries already, and I have a whole bunch of new applications to go through. There are so far 8 that have gone to international students, and we are continuing to push for international students if needed to apply for those bursaries. What else? Our training has been developed. Our online leader training should be live by the end of this week, which is really exciting. And Delfest have 3 signed secured acts, which is really exciting. And so probably in 2 weeks, everybody will find out the lineup. So stay tuned and get excited, yay! Other than that, if anybody has any questions.
For society nights for the grade, should we contact you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Are you looking to have one?
Does it, well, it says society night, can it be any society?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can Dal Swing do stuff?
Totally. Yeah, so we're gonna have one society, like kind of like a mixer for all different societies to come and get together in September. And then what we're looking to do is like every Friday night, or either a Monday or Tuesday, depending on like the size of the event. We'd love for societies to come into the space and host events that are open for all students, but kind of showcasing their society. So like swing sounds like perfect.
Okay,
But just kind
that's
of
why it's swing dance. People get confused.
yeah, swing dance. Yeah.
We've talked to venues, this is totally tangent. We've
What's
talked to
the-
venues before, and so we need a venue for like Dal Swing, and they like think we're having a sex party.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Dal
It's a swing dance event.
Are you a student?
Ratified society right there.
It's happened. It's happened. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
no, dancing, great.
Don't want that. I just
Other
want to
thing, not
clarify.
so much. Cool.
Any other questions?
Took a weird turn there, didn't it?
Comments or
Sorry.
comments?
Totally unnecessary.
Okay, perfect, thanks Kelsey.
Yeah.
Again, all the exec, if you can send me digital copies of those reports, and then I'll push those out, so everybody has those in case there's any other questions. Perfect, moving on, any notices of motion coming up? Dylan?
I'll be bringing the ethical investment policy to the next meeting to be approved hopefully at the end of September as mandated by last week's council. It'll be awesome.
So depending on how the information I get from Rhiannon goes, I might have more stuff to do with the society policy.
Okay. Kathleen, yeah?
So like I said before, notice of appointment, we will be appointing the Board of Governors position at the next meeting, big deal. As well, what else is I going to talk about?
Elections.
Right, so elections are happening this year. We will need to appoint a CRO and an elections committee to make that happen. What has happened in the past with the appointment of our CRO is with a lot of other positions, and it's gone through the standing nominating committee that used to exist of this council, which we have not yet struck this year. So, at the next council meeting, we'd like to have a discussion with councillors on, am I wrong with this? We want to have a discussion with councillors on making, whether we should appoint the CRO by a nominating committee? Or we do want to do it by?
So the new bylaw doesn't require a standing committee for a nominations
There we go.
committee. So it
Thank you.
used to be that just like we had to have, the 4 or 5 committees that we pushed to fill for the last few council meetings, there was one called the nominations committee that would go through interview processes for a number of appointments and positions. In the new bylaws, the nominations committee is not a mandated required standing committee, but any number of ad hoc committees can be struck for any period of time. So if council decided they wanted to do the same thing as last year and have a similarly structured, similarly timeframed, similarly chaired nominations committee, we can strike an ad hoc nominations committee that has all the same parameters and structures. So it's a decision on how we want to handle nominations this year, given that there is an explicit do it via standing committee. Now we can do it via a different structure of committee.
Thank you. for explaining that. So yeah, if folks feel like we should strike an ad hoc committee, we totally can. We would just like to have the elections committee and the CRO elected by the end of the fall, or by the end of September, because they do have to do a lot of work in the fall term to get ready for elections coming in the winter term. Yeah, so it's just a more urgent matter than a lot of other things.
Any other notices of motion?
Should we notice to strike the committee, or are we just discussing it at the next meeting? Should we be discussing that?
Yeah, we have time. Can we discuss it now? What do folks think about just striking an ad hoc nominating committee? So what that committee would do would be made up of 3 or 4 counselors, and they would basically, like a hiring process, interview potential CRO candidates and present the ideal candidate to council, and then the CRO would get elected by council. So the point of having a nominating committee is so the process is more thorough than just someone coming to council and being like, hey, I really want this job, blah, 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 blah. And so it just holds it, because CRO is a pretty important job and they're hold to make sure that they're accountable for a lot of different things. It just makes the process more thorough. And so I think with this, and given the timeline, an ad hoc nominating committee would be the next move, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't come up with something different for our nominating process in the future.
Yeah, so one option would be to have an ad hoc nominating committee just for the CRO.
Yeah.
As opposed to striking a nominating committee that we would decide to sit all year and handle all major nominations. Or
Sorry, does everyone know what a CRO is? I'm so sorry. A CRO is a chief returning officer who is for the election, the DSU election. So they would be the officer, the head person who deals with everything, all DSU elections. And then they would as well be kind of the head of the elections committee.
So if we didn't have a nomination committee, it would be similar to like the board of governors appointments.
Pretty much, yeah. So it would just be anyone, and still the thing about appointments at council is anyone still could go for the job and get it, right? Because you could still not get selected by the nominating committee, come up here, really move council, and then council could go against the selection that the nominating committee makes. But it is just like a more thorough process that feels better.
Because they have real interviews. And
Yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
you ask 2 questions and then you appoint this person.
Yeah.
Like it's a committee that sits and interviews generally a lot of people, so they have more experience with it. It's not like the problem is that when the recommendation comes to council and council does whatever they want, like, you know, it's only as valuable as it is that the trust that
The council puts in the nominating committee.
So it's like, if, I don't know.
Yeah, so what I would maybe suggest, if folks that don't have a lot more conversation on it, is that we strike an ad hoc nominating committee just for the CRO. And then we can talk about other things later.
I'm more comfortable with that then.
Yeah.
Sure, so I'll add that to business for next month.
Cool.
We can open with
Yeah.
another discussion on that before deciding.
And then so we will also start, so if you would like to be on the nominating committee, start thinking about that. But we're gonna start a call out for applications for the CRO like next week. So that we can just start having those in regardless of what the process is. We'll still have applications coming through.
And the elections committee.
And the elections committee too. But that would just get appointed by council, like not nominating committee, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay, any other notices of motion for next month? All right, moving on to announcements. So our next meeting is going to be September 14th. Tentative, keep in mind, we're now moving into the regular year schedule. We're gonna have 2 meetings per month on average. The AGM, first AGM is October 5th, so it's gonna come up real fast after that second September meeting. October 5th, I think. Again, we haven't adjusted all that tentative schedule that was sent out. We're still working off of that. But yeah, meetings are coming up sort of every 2 weeks on average now. So there's gonna be a lot more that we're gonna process through. Keep in mind the deadlines if you wanna put forward any kind of amendments or motions, anything you want addressed in council, just to make sure to get that to me by like 72 hours before the council meeting, because then I have a day to put the whole package together. So everybody has 2 days to look everything over. I know it's been kind of a quiet summer, tends to be how it goes, but hopefully there'll be more stuff coming through the door by then. Any other announcements from anybody else?
Do they move to 6:30 during the school year?
I
Yes.
think they moved to 6.
We could party all night.
I can look that up.
I think it's 6, not 6:30.
Yeah, they're listed as 6. The AGM is 5, but otherwise 6. Any other announcements, fun stuff, events, cool things going on with your constituencies, societies?
School starts Monday.
Oh, jeez.
That's all.
Perfect. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Dylan, thanks. And seconded? Amina? Anyone opposed to adjourning the meeting? I'll take it on unanimous consent, but we're done. Thanks.
Shauna, be happy that you killed my battery.